So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege and honor to introduce Erik Burnham, one of the most amazing, in my opinion, and many others, comic book writer out there. I would not trust him with any other franchise that I loved growing up. He's the man. So welcome, Erik. Appreciate you being at SiouxperCon Online 2020.
Hey, well, thanks for having me. It's an interesting experience to do these online conventions, and it certainly does shave down on the travel time. I can't say it's terrible all of the time, although the weather's so nice out right now. I wouldn't be opposed to a nice road trip.
Absolutely, yeah. We miss having you.
Yeah, I got stuck up with work last year and couldn't make it, and I was crushed. I was looking forward to getting back this year, and then all hell broke loose.
Yep. It feels like the end of the world sometimes.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So I think it's a great segue to ask one of my first questions for you. How has COVID been for you? How has the process been? How's writing? How's the industry doing?
Well, it's been weird. Where I live is such a rural area that it hasn't been hit as hard as many other areas, which is good. I mean, we still have cases, and we're still being careful. But being that it was summer and being that I don't wander around too much anyway, it hasn't affected me so much in that sense. I can't write at the coffee shop as much as I used to, or restaurants as much as I used to. But for the most part, it's been, okay, not terrible. The stress of reading the news is worse than the day-to-day. Writing, the weird thing is that most of the stuff that came out this year was done before COVID was a thing. So a lot of my stuff has been deferred, put off, hasn't started. I'm working on one mini series for a different publisher that I've worked with before, and that's coming out in March, and it was always scheduled to come out in March. They hired me back in late February, early March of this year. Again, mostly before COVID hit as hard as it has. So yeah, it's kind of like a vacation, although I miss getting paid regularly.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I could totally, relate there. Yeah, I think it's kind of wild seeing all this stuff happening, and being a part of this once in a century thing that just doesn't happen. It doesn't seem like it should happen. Is that influencing your writing a little bit, do you think, as you're writing? Is it you're writing about pandemics and things, or is it just avoiding that altogether?
Honestly, there was another project. It's on hold right now. But it had, this was one that I had pitched a bake-off. A bunch of writers come in and, all give their takes, and the editors pick the one that they like. And so, yeah, back in second week of February, I started doing this. Of course, I had, as part of the story, a deadly virus. So I kind of wish I didn't have that in the story. But other than that, no, the one thing that I would like to do more of as a result of just all of the doom news, every little bit of thing coming through the pipe, COVID or otherwise, is I just want to write stuff that's a little bit more positive right now. That's where kind of my mind is at. Just Absolutely. To try and push back against that, because it's anxiety up to here,
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the only real change has come since, I haven't had a ton of stuff that's been a heavy deadline. Everything's just been pushed around, and so that's just my tastes have changed. I'm looking forward to something a little bit more positive, working on that.
Good. I'm looking forward to reading some of this stuff too.
We should talk more about it,
Absolutely. There's good stuff going on in the world. Nothing off the top of my head immediately, but I know there's stuff going on that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So you said you're in rural Minnesota.
Yeah.
And you're from Minnesota originally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so So breaking into the industry, living in a smaller rural area, you know, I'm in South Dakota, you're in Minnesota. What's that like for somebody kind of coming up into the world that wants to do comics? Was it
Well,
tough getting in?
it wasn't easy. It's easier than it's been for some people. I'll say that. I had a lot of luck, a lot of lucky breaks. And it's easier now than it was when I started. What happened was I was working in radio, late 90s, and I got laid off, and I didn't have a job again for going on almost 2 years. And with the time that I had, I was killing time on the internet, and I was talking with other comic fans. I didn't have a comic shop. I still don't. So, I mean, the internet is where I keep up with a lot of the stuff that I want to find out about. This was even before digital comics, Comixology, any of that stuff. So I couldn't even keep up in that way. So message boards. Heck, man, this was before Facebook and Twitter.
Before MySpace?
Before MySpace. And this was 2000, 2001, way back when. But I found a group of friends, and we were chatting comics. And as comic fans do, there were complaints. These suck. We could do better. Finally, in one of the large group chats back on the AOL Instant Messenger, which doesn't exist anymore either, someone said, okay, well, if we can do better, if we're just going to go trashing on all this work, shouldn't we put our money where our mouth is? And that became a anthology, 80-page anthology, the Shooting Star Comics anthology. It came out in 2002.
Okay.
And that was fun. I got drafted into that. After the first one came out, we enjoyed it so much we did another. We formed, some of us formed a small company and put out a few comics over the next few years. We went until about 2006 doing that. And one of the comics we put out was Children of the Grave, which was the first comics work of Tom Waltz. Tom Waltz wound up taking Children of the Grave to be collected at IDW. And he got to know the guys there, became an editor. He got put on to the Gene Simmons books when they had those in 2007, and, you know, put out a word to the Shooting Star Comics writers. Did anybody want to do some pitches? Okay, fine. Yes, we would absolutely love to pitch to get paid. And I pitched a couple of ideas to him. One sold. So that was my first written comics works in the Gene Simmons House of Horrors anthology.
Awesome.
After that, he said, hey, I've got this thing here. It's a tie-in to a toy nobody's heard of because it hasn't come out yet. Would you like to do that? Yes, I would. And I did that fun little thing that was called Nanivores, 4-part series. After that came out, he said, we have a short deadline. It's going to be done like now in order to come out before a movie comes out. Do you like the A-Team? Yes, I do. So I got to work on the A-Team. And it just kept increasing little bit by bit, to the point where Tom got a hold of the Ghostbusters and said, Tom, I love the Ghostbusters. I would really like to pitch for this. And he took some story ideas to send to Sony to see if they could be pre-approved, because at that time they were locked into the 1 year of quarterly one-shots that were focused on the holidays. So that was when Peter David did the Halloween one, and they had a Comic-Con one, and so on. They approved the pitch, and nothing came of it because, of course, they were locked into doing those one-shots. And then IDW got the idea to do the Infestation crossover. Tom asked if I would be interested in writing the Ghostbusters for that. Since they liked the stuff that I had pitched and they didn't have anything else Ghostbusters for me, would I be interested in doing that? So, I mean, it was just a laddering up. I seized the opportunity. I figured that 44 pages of Ghostbusters was all I was ever going to get to write. And I threw myself into it, and it came out in March of 2011. I worked on it in summer of 2010, so about 10 years ago.
Wow.
It went over really well, and it went over well enough that Tom asked me for a pitch for an ongoing series. So I went down to a restaurant. I sat down, I ordered a pizza, ate the pizza, wrote up like 2 years worth of ideas and sent that off to Tom. And I got approved like a couple of weeks later to write the series. So, I mean, it all came together about as well as possible. Everything went right. Although, as Tom says, IDW didn't think the ongoing series would go past the first 4 issues. So we were always expecting to end at every 4 issues, or at the end of every storyline, and we kept going for 10 years.
Oh, that's awesome. I remember when 88 miles per hour, that company came out with a Ghostbusters book back in the early 2000s. And it was like blew my mind that there was a book out there, and they had, I think it was a really short run. And then IDW had come out with the Ghostbusters, and the Infestation came out, and that was like Transformers, I think, and what, Star Trek.
And G.I. Joe, yeah, those
G.I.
book
Joe,
crossovers,
yeah.
they cross over without crossing over, yeah.
Yeah, which was amazing. And then, yeah, so it was like, that was my introduction to this whole thing. And then, of course, the first issue of Ghostbusters comes out, and my mind is just blown with how amazingly the artwork and the writing was such a perfect complement to each other, and you guys crushed it. So I'm not surprised it's been going this long, because it is so good. As also an avid Ghostbuster fan, I did have to bring up some of my stuff and put on display for you.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I see Get Real over there. Get Real was fun. We had been talking for 3 years about doing a crossover with the Ninja Turtles, because Tom was writing that, I was writing Ghostbusters, and I wrote some Turtle stuff, and he edited Ghostbusters, and we were trying to talk Nickelodeon into that for a couple of years. We didn't think it would ever happen, and Get Real was the thing that we decided to do if they finally just shut the door in our face. But then they let us do that, and once we were done, we said, well, we should just do this anyway. So, I mean, yeah.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Yeah, I've loved the crossovers. Yeah, good work. Yeah, so you've been doing Ghostbusters for quite a long time. Do you feel like you've got to influence some of this Afterlife 2020 stuff that's coming? Well, not Afterlife 2020, but Afterlife that's coming out soon, or?
I don't know. I know only that they Ghost Corps is aware of all the comic stuff, so they looked at all the stuff that we've done and they've said yay or nay. I don't know if they've taken anything from the comics to use in Afterlife. All I know is that we didn't do anything that they felt was inappropriate to what Jason wanted to tell in Afterlife. So there wasn't anything that they were upset about, in retrospect. So, I mean, maybe he's done something with the thread that we threw out, and maybe they haven't. I don't know. I've got to see the movie to find out. I'm kind of anxious at this point.
Absolutely. So, did you hear about Afterlife before the typical person because of your work with Ghostbusters, or was it just a big surprise for you?
It was a surprise when it was announced. I did hear a few tidbits about the movie when I was working on year one, just so I didn't contradict anything. Those few tidbits, it's not enough for me to know exactly what happens in the movie. Basically, is what it comes down to. But it was enough to get a general idea, and work on year one. So, for the most part, it was a surprise, and it's still a surprise. And I'm looking forward to seeing what's coming out. I've heard, like I just said, a couple of tidbits. But that's not the movie. That's not the show. I don't have context for the tidbits that I've heard, and I'm excited to find out how what I know ties into what it is, and things that might have changed in the production of it, because I found out before they started shooting. So we'll see.
Awesome. Does that open the door for you then to continue on with comics for the Afterlife comic book? Are you guys going to do like a movie adaptation that you're aware of yet, or are you not allowed to talk about that?
I'm not aware of what's going on yet, because we're not doing anything until the movie gets closer to happening. So the movie being bumped back affects everything. So, I mean, I don't know. It's entirely possible, knock wood, that this doesn't happen. They say we don't want to do comic books for a while because of, we want Afterlife to have its breathing space and not have any adventures of the other Ghostbusters out while that's, in theaters and video for a year. They could say that. They haven't, as far as I know. But it's the kind of thing that licensors in general can occasionally do. So, I mean, that's something that could happen. They could, it might be that I don't get to work on Ghostbusters comics in the near future just because of the movie, or it might mean that I'm going to be busier than ever, and I don't know which one it is.
Absolutely.
Hoping I'll be busier.
Me too. Yeah. So as you're writing these characters, I mean, you've done Back to the Future, you've done Ghostbusters, you're cracking into these Ninja Turtles, all these characters that people hold dear. How do you get into their heads and put it on paper the way that you do? because it's when I'm reading this stuff as an avid fan, I'm reading this and just cheesing out because to me it's the way I interpreted it growing up. So how do you do this? How do you expand on these established characters like that?
You know, I'm. It sounds egotistical. I just do it. In this case, it might just be a talent for aping. I've seen a lot of the movies. Of course, these guys have done over and above Ghostbusters, so I recall their speech patterns, okay, and how they talk and the words that might sound proper coming out of their mouths. And I think that makes a difference. I mean, the rest of it is people just being able to clearly hear those voices in their heads anyway, because again, they've seen not just Ghostbusters, but every other thing that Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and so on have done. The voices are clear in their heads, and sometimes with the Ghostbusters, it's not even the movie actors. It's, well, I can hear the real Ghostbusters in these characters instead. So it's just, matching the right word with the character, and that is a completely useless talent for any other field that I happen to have. It's an ear for the dialogue, so I lucked into that, and that's the only thing I can think of because I'm not putting extra work into it. I'm just sitting down and doing it and hoping it comes across to the audience the way it does in my head. So far, so good. You know, we lucked out. But it's not really a satisfying answer. It would be better if I had something along the lines of, yes, no, I study intensely. I watch hours of film. I parse it down to the eighth of a second just to know when the pauses come in. No, I wish it was that, involved. It would sound better and make me sound, smarter instead of an idiot,
Well, I think it's the perfect answer. I don't know. It's like the nostalgia that you have for these characters comes through in your writing. So I don't know. It just, for me in particular, like you just nail it on the head every time. I'm always just loving it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's the goal. I mean, I want people to feel like these are the characters that they know and have lived with and been fans of for decades in all of these cases, whether that is Peter Venkman or whether it's Optimus Prime or whether it's Doc Brown or, whether it's the Ninja Turtles, any of that. That's the goal every time I walk in. The hard part comes when it's a character that nobody's heard before and doesn't have a default voice in their head at all, no frame of reference, no context. That makes it a little harder, but so far.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's quite a contrast then, these original characters that come up and any originals that you've done, any original work in that aspect anyway, these characters. So that process for you then is just, you're probably going to get these concept drawings and then you're going to have to kind of extrapolate data, right, from that and just say, okay, this is what this person looks like they would sound like, or this character would be like.
Sometimes it works like that, and sometimes it works the other way, and I have to write the script before there's any concept drawings. Before there's anything to come up with a concept for. If I came up with a few of the characters for Ghostbusters, I had to write it before Dan had anything to draw. And when he had something to draw, and when he started giving them a personality on the page, that informed their character. With Transformers Ghostbusters, I didn't know how Ectotron would sound for the first 40 pages, 30 pages, somewhere in that neighborhood, first issue and a half. Dan said when he was reading the dialogue, it sounded like David Hyde Pierce to him. So the rest of the series, that voice got into my head, and then the dialogue changed to sound a little bit more like something David Hyde Pierce would say in one of the roles that he would take, or just be typecast in. And that changed the character, and people noticed it. So sometimes it works backwards, and sometimes it's fully formed from go, but that's rare.
Awesome. I do have to admit I did buy the Ectotron Transformer that came out on that pre-order.
I would have. It was sold out every time I tried.
Really?
Well,
I'll see if I can locate one for you.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Eventually I'll track one down, or they'll recast it. But I mean, yeah, it was a tough one to find. It was like, hey, it's up for sale. No, it's sold out. So.
Yeah, I don't even know how I got one. I got lucky. So, Yep.
It works with those things sometimes.
Character that you get to bring to life, and you can't even get the action figure. It'd be like super frustrating.
It's true.
That was a great series too. I I haven't read anything that you've written that I haven't liked. That's really rare.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite writers, artists, there's always something I'm like, they kind of missed. But everything I've read of yours, and I genuinely mean this, has been fantastic. I've enjoyed every second of it.
Thank you. I mean,
every book I think you've had from IDW now. So I think it's like 2 boxes of issues.
I mean, the lucky part for me is that I've gotten to work on stuff that I've loved and had a blast with. I mean, that helps to engage, I hope, other readers. But I mean, yeah, I've just been having a blast with all the stuff that I've gotten to do. And, I get paid to have this kind of fun. It's amazing. And that makes the job just a joy. And like I said, I hope that comes through to the readers, the amount of fun I'm having. So.
Absolutely. It does. So when you and Dan are working together in particular, there's always Easter eggs that I pick up on in your books. Is that you or him, or is it a combination? You guys?
It's a combination, but it is a slanted combination. It's about 20% me. I write some in-jokes in on purpose that he adds in. And the rest of it is him. I'm bored and I'm going to put something that's fun for me in the panel. And sometimes we have to ask him to go back and take some things out because, Dan, you can't put this in the pen. No, Dan, no. There are likeness rights. You need to get this out of it. The one that I remember, I don't think it'll be any trouble. He put the entire group of Stranger Things kids in a panel, and they were just dead on. You couldn't miss them. They're like, no, Dan, we got to take these out. It's one of those that he snuck in right at the front of the panel. But for the most part, yeah, he does the vast majority just as part of the thing that makes it interesting for him to draw the page. I have asked for jokes, and I've asked for certain things to be snuck into the background for Easter eggs. But again, it's an 80-20 split, and it's not even close. It's mostly Dan. I wish I could take more credit. I mean, he put in some funny stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think every time I've gone through a book, I've gone through 3 or 4 times, like picking up stuff I didn't for the first time. Or,
yeah. Oh no, I was looking at one the other day, and from this book is years old, and I found stuff that I didn't notice was in there. I'm like, Dan, I can't believe you got this past us. That nobody noticed it, because we see it when he turns in layouts, and then he turns in the finished, and then we see the pages with Luisa's colors, and then we see the pages with the letters, and all of those steps, and I didn't notice this one thing that he put on a panel until several years later when I'm flipping through a book. So I enjoy that there's some reread value just because of that. And again, I wish I could take more credit.
Oh, 20% is a good number there. Well, that's awesome. Well, cool. Let's. I got a couple questions from some folks I wanted to get here because I think there's some good ones out there. I'm going to touch on some of this stuff, but you were the Man Crush Monday this week for the Calgary Ghostbusters. Were you aware of that?
I was aware in that Sunday night I got a message on Facebook from Candace asking me for a quote because of this, and I was zoning out. I had some allergy medication. I was about ready to go to sleep, and I think that's how my quote became quote, huh. and she goes, okay, that's perfect. I'm like, all right. Then I saw it yesterday and went, oh, so that's what she meant. Oh, I wish I would have come up with something smarter. Yeah, well, I got some good sleep out of it. That's all right. Well, yeah, I got a little bit of a laugh out of that. I think she was having some fun with me there.
That's awesome. That's a great group. So you guys have incorporated them into books too. I know Candace has made an appearance in some books.
Yeah, I believe she has. Yeah. I think she was in Ghostbusters 101. I think Dan snuck her in there.
Yeah.
The fan groups are, by and large, I'm sure just because there are so many, there have to be some terrible people out there, but I haven't met any yet. They've all been lovely people, doing great things, doing charitable work, just putting out the love of the fan base. So all those people that I've met have been fantastic. And the Calgary Ghostbusters are certainly no exception. They are a great group of folks.
It's awesome. And how appropriate that they got the filming up there.
Yeah, I think Candace might have gotten into the movie. I think she said.
Did she? Okay.
As an extra, I think she told me about that.
That's so
So
cool.
I hopefully she makes it into the film and not onto the cutting room floor.
Yeah, absolutely. She's just kind of like a legend in the local, little chapters here. So, and of course, you're an honorary member of the 605.
Oh yes,
yes, I
remember.
Got inducted a couple of years ago. That's pretty awesome.
Yes, I got my plaque up on the wall. It was a nice surprise.
Awesome. So, do you get inducted to a lot of different groups? Do they invite you in?
Not in such a way. I've gotten a couple of inductions. The kind of with the plaque and the frame certificate, which is nice. I do get a lot of patches, which is awesome.
Oh, nice.
People sending me those or giving me them at conventions. I've gotten a chunk down at Dragon Con where they have the big Ghostbusters meetup every year. It's just, gosh, I have to have like 40 patches by now. It's insane.
Oh, wow.
It's incredible. And, it's kind of an honor to be included because, I mean, I just write the comics. I mean, it's nice that they think it worth sharing. I appreciate it.
Definitely. I think it's a testament to your talent because I don't think if people liked your stuff, they'd probably be sending you stuff. So
that's fair. Yeah. It's nice to have the validation.
Absolutely. So I got a couple more questions for you as they've kind of come in through the particular Ghostbusters group. I think I mentioned that before the interview. It was like, I got a lot of Ghostbusters questions.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you're a legend. So is there any talks, so Lee asked, is there any type of like an animated series that you're aware of that's going to be coming out that you'd have any involvement in or that's been talked about?
God, I wish I had some involvement in something. There is nothing that I have any involvement in at the moment. I wish there was. I wish it was just me saying, no, I absolutely can't say anything about that at all. There's nothing. No, there really is nothing that I'm involved in yet. I hope when something does come to pass, that I get a chance to try out and maybe do some stuff for it. But for now, there is nothing coming up that I know about for sure. So, I mean, I'm sure I've heard the same rumors that everybody else has heard, but I can't confirm or deny anything because nobody's told me anything.
No. So let's say that an animated series would come out and they asked you to write for that. I mean, would you jump right on that? Like the next?
Oh yeah. I'd love to give it a try. It would be neat to see something come to life in that way. We've gotten to do, Dan and I separately and together have gotten to do a couple of different things, board games and handheld games that we've done some work on, and just seeing those things, which are less come to life than an animated series are. We'll put it that way. It's been flooring. So I mean, I've got miniatures of characters we've created. We've seen them in, to play in puzzle games or coming up in that that Ghostbusters world that they had going for a couple of years. It was flooring to see stuff that we've worked on come out in that way. So absolutely, I would love to see an animated series, have something that I wrote, hear an actor act those lines, see it animated, play out on the screen. Would absolutely jump the chance. It'd be a blast.
That's awesome. Would you be able to, this is an off question, just popped in my head. Would you be able to do fan fiction stuff if somebody did some weird animation thing, like a fan thing? Or is that something you can't get involved in because
It's something that I shouldn't and probably can't.
Did you hear that, everybody? He can't.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah. It's safer for everybody all around. I had thought the other day, just for fun, because I haven't technically written the Ghostbusters since 2019 now, because of how the lead time works and how far ahead we work. I was thinking about I mused on Facebook on doing like a pilot, just a screenplay for fun. But then I wouldn't be able to show it to anybody.
Right.
A good point was made. I could just mine it for stories later when the comics start up again. Knock wood. But it's something I might just do just because I miss playing around with characters and telling their adventures. Even if I'm the only audience, I might do that anyway. So who knows?
Absolutely. I mean, you could always send it to me, and I could just tell you what I thought.
Yeah.
So speaking of games, so were you involved with the Ghostbusters Men in Black crossover board game?
I don't know what I can say about that.
Okay. Is it still happening?
I honestly, I don't know whether it's happening or not. I did some additional writing, but I don't know if they'll use it. So we'll see. I don't know what's the status is with the game, or what I can say. I did do some quiet behind the scenes additional writing that has nothing to do with gameplay. So I mean, if the game happens, maybe it'll be seen, and if it doesn't, it definitely won't be seen. So
there you go.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had involvement. Well, you wrote the Tobin Spirit Guide.
Yeah, that was a fun book.
Was that like a really cool project to go back and get to describe these ghosts and give them backstories?
It so was. The big frustration I had was that we had a cap on space. So it went from a larger book, I mean, not much larger, maybe 100 and some odd pages, to 60 some pages up to 90 some pages, and that's where it stuck. I would have liked to have done something a little bit more in depth, kind of like an Audubon or a field guide, measurements, something like that. And but I mean, obviously, it was a showcase for Kyle, 100%, and he nailed all of those illustrations. The book was fun, even with the restrictions. And the restrictions were that I had to have it in the Ghostbusters voice in order to include stuff like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, which Tobin would not have seen. Right. So that's how we came up with this is the revision for the common people who don't need the 20-pound, original unabridged text. No, I mean, Insight Editions was great to work with. My editor was awesome. Kyle was just turning in killer art. It was a dream of a project that was over far too fast for my tastes. Probably not for the editor's taste, but for my tastes.
Yeah, it's amazing that the artwork, everything about it is it's cool. They really formatted it well, and it's a fun, and it's actually a really quick read. Yeah, like I sat down and read through that really fast. Like, oh no, yeah,
it's a short book, and I mean, short descriptions, and that's like I said. I wish it could have been. I wish it could have been longer, but I mean, that wasn't the project. The project was an art book with captions, and I probably went a little overboard on some of the descriptions a little bit more than they wanted, but they humored me and gave me a little bit more rope.
Good. I'm glad they did, because it's awesome. So Douglas wants to know, is there going to be a fourth hardcover collected set of the IDW Ghostbusters books?
Aware of? Not that I'm aware of. I have absolutely no idea what's coming up next for the collections. Everything was thrown off. They have a timetable and they have printing schedules, and everything was thrown off by COVID. So I don't know what's coming up next, or if anything was canceled, or if anything was rescheduled. And it's 100% beyond me. I don't know.
We're hoping for it. Those are fun to have. Mm-hmm. I might have those too. Nerding out over here. So when you, one of the questions we had was asking about gear. So do you get to kind of create your own gear too as you're writing these stories? And incorporate some stuff. I know those newer Ghostbusters had the proton pack on the arm and stuff. Was that all your concepts that you came up with? And
the proton pack on the arm was not me. That was something that was come up with on the Valentine's special. Okay. Yeah. We just took it because, I mean, why wouldn't we use all the toys in the toy box? We have come up with some stuff. There's a few things that frustrated me because we could have come up with something wholly new, but Dan went back and grabbed something that existed before and used, like a ghost grenade. He used one that was designed for the cartoon series, and he could have come up with his own. I completely understand why he did it, but I mean, some of the more unique ideas that we have had just look like stuff from the cartoon show or for the toy line, as opposed to something a little bit more unique. Nothing wrong with that, but I mean, it's just when the fans see it, they catch the reference and go, "Oh, this is this thing instead of this thing," and But usually whenever the opportunity has presented itself to come up with something new, 100%, we came up with something new to fit the story. And it was fun because, I mean, why wouldn't they be coming up with more junk?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So like the toy lines that didn't come out, and you guys are throwing out
toy lines that didn't come out, toy lines that did come out, stuff that was, a background gag in an episode of Extreme Ghostbusters. He would know about that and put that in. Sometimes the stuff from the cartoon series would take me out of it a little bit, in that all I could think of was the way it was used in the cartoon series when I saw it. So every once in a while, I shook my fist at Dan for the Easter egg, but it only lasts for like a second, because it's so good and it's so appropriate that you can't really complain. But it just makes my brain like a needle jump on a record player. That's what it was with those things. But no, we did get to create a lot of stuff, and it's cool to see when people make those things into props. So, I got a kick out of seeing the ghost grenades, the grenades that Egon was, fond of using throughout the comic series, start popping up more, and then the defibrillator that they used in the Turtles crossover. I saw that on a couple of hands at Dragon Con a couple of years ago, and that was super cool. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, in the community, I know, I think almost everyone now has gotten a grenade or is planning to get a grenade, which is so funny. They're easy to 3D print.
Yeah, it's a terrible idea to give these characters grenades, which is why we had to do it. And so it was hopefully in the new movie we'll see somebody throw a grenade. That would make me happy.
That'd be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Totally epic. I feel like Egon would have one on his bench. For sure. I hope
he
so.
should. He should. So. Someone, yes.
Yes. So is there any other projects that you are aware of that are in the works that are multi-universe, multi-worlds, where you're going to be bringing any more crossovers that you can talk about? Maybe not Ghostbusters, but other stuff.
Gosh, okay. Well, here's the thing. I can't talk about I have 4 projects in the works right now. One of them is a mini series, which I'm working on the last issue right now. That's the one that I was talking about that comes out next March.
Okay.
Can't say anything about it. I have a large, potentially ongoing series that might come out in February, March, and I can't talk about it. I have another mini series that's also probably for the spring. I can't talk about it. All these things is just hurry up and wait. Some of them are right at the finish line and, could veer off and crash and not happen, which is part of the reason I can't talk about it. And then the other reason is if it does happen, they really don't want me spilling the beans before they do. But so all of these, and then the one with the virus that I mentioned earlier is another one that could happen next year. And I'm hoping all of these things happen because that would make for a really busy 2021 for me. But I really don't know what's in the cards, and I'm just hoping they don't all crash and burn. So yeah, no, those are the things that I've been working on. I've been doing comic strips over on Patreon and then reposting them a few weeks later on Twitter for my own fun and amusement. I've been working up a couple of other ideas. Some of them would be ideally creator-owned, but one of them is something that I would never be able to write anything else if I chose to draw it, because it would take me so much time to be up to a professional level. So I said maybe I'll just turn that into a novel. Another one is a middle grade thing that I'm just waiting to finish this script so I can doodle a couple of pages and just see if it works as a concept on paper before telling anybody else about it. So I'm trying to keep busy, and I am keeping busy. I just wish I could say more about the stuff that I'm working on.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad to hear that you've got some projects in the works. That's
awesome. Knock wood, they all come true. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Don't jinx it there.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. So I have a ton of questions about Afterlife, so I'm trying to.
I wish I knew anything about Afterlife. I know everything that everybody else already knows. So it would be it would be completely useless. I'd be telling you things that you could, hop to Google and find out for yourself. Like, wait a minute, this isn't inside information. I know this. Come on, so unfortunately, I wish I knew more. I really do.
Absolutely. Oh, that's awesome. So you're talking about original stuff that you do.
Mm.
So so I'm gonna throw this out there, but I own a comic book publishing company now, and we are just starting out.
Oh, cool.
So having people, as someone that is interested in maybe submitting to a new publishing company, or maybe someone starting a publishing company, what advice would you give people that are going to be involved in this process? Whether it's writing or artwork, sounds like you do a little bit of artwork. Do your own.
I mean, that's where I started out because I didn't have anybody else to do it for me. So then I got to segue into just doing the writing, which is so much easier. Or it takes less time. I'll put it that way. It takes a lot less time. But okay. So the question: what kind of advice was rephrased so I make sure I got it right? Yeah.
I guess we could approach it two ways. What advice would you give someone coming into the industry? Or what advice would you give a comic book company to be more receptive and easier to work with, or cooperative? I imagine working with IDW has been great. They seem like an amazing company. So
yeah, it's a great company. It comes down in that case to the people I work directly with, and they've all been fantastic. So, well, as a publisher, just working with creators, communication up, pay on time, and it's very important. And you'd be surprised. But just have your clear goals and make sure that everybody knows what they're there for and who owns what and who doesn't own what. I mean, I've worked for companies where we own the IP. We would like you to develop it. Where are you willing to do it? Here's all of our stuff. Are you willing to do it? Yes or no? This much money. And then I'll, say yes or no. And sometimes I said yes, and sometimes I've said no. But just keep everything above board, which is really the best way to deal with everything. Creators, make sure that they don't, they get their stuff in the time. Have a good schedule. Stick to the schedule as best you can. Have as much lead time as you possibly can. It's rare for comics to have lead time, so the more you can get, the better, because stuff always comes up. 100% of the time, everything I've worked on, something has come up. Usually, it's been minor. But the more lead time you have, the more time you have to address it. Whether it's a mistake from a writer, they wrote the wrong thing, or a mistake from a letter, they have something, they missed lettering something, that's important. A balloon is not there. Something from the artist. Oh no, that can't be in there. That'll get us sued. We need to get that out of there.
That's the Stranger Things cast that we should have.
Stranger Things cast in the cast. Yeah, no, the more time you have, so give yourself lead time. Give yourself as much lead time as you possibly can for every project, and that'll take care of like 90% of your headaches.
That's fantastic advice.
Yeah.
Speaking of experiences, is there, you have to name anybody, don't call anybody out, but is there any really bad experiences that you've had in the industry that just where you're like, what just happened?
Nothing super bad. There've been a couple of disappointments where, and not in comics, I mean, just for writing, where I thought that I was a certain point in a project, and then they stopped talking, stopped responding to emails, stuff like that. And that wasn't comics at all. That was a different industry that wanted me to do some writing. No, I mean, for the most part, I've been super lucky. The fans I've dealt with have been great. Aside from your cranks on Twitter, who you can just mute or block or whatever. The folks I've dealt with directly that I've met at cons, they've all been great. The editors and publishers that I've worked with have all been fantastic. I've been super, super lucky, and it's been great. There have been a couple at conventions. There's been a couple of creators, and I won't name them, who have been, their personalities have clashed, and it hasn't gone too well. But I mean, that is considering all the other good stuff I had to deal with, that minor little, take a step back and don't pop them in the mouth kind of a thing it hasn't even been a blip on the radar.
Good. Oh, I keep kicking my table here. Sorry. So when you go to a convention, right? Obviously we're missing you in Sioux Falls physically. We get to do this awesome interview with you. Your day is like you get up, you sit at a table for a good chunk of the day, and then there's other stuff that you do. Is there something that you really enjoy doing when you're at cons? I know we've got to sit together a couple of times and just hang out for a couple of minutes afterward, but like, is there something you really enjoy at cons afterward that you like to do?
As far as conventions, one of the big things that I like to do is just where I live in the middle of nowhere, there's no comic shop, there's no comic fans. So I don't get to just hang out with people who like comics much. So that's the big thing that I like about comics, conventions. I get to see people I don't get to see regularly, get to geek out about comics or any other geek stuff. And that's really the high point. So everything else is just bonus. I, getting to different places of the country, man, I love to eat. And I put on enough weight during this quarantine and slow down of COVID that I've proven it. But I like to go out to try out different foods. I like to just visit with people that I don't get to see or just get to talk on the internet, regularly. Just to hang out and actually have a conversation with somebody. Those are the things. It's just connecting with people. That's the stuff that I love most.
Awesome. So if you could cosplay as anybody, who would you cosplay? Or who do you cosplay as?
It's funny. I have some friends who are very, very into cosplay. Ridiculously so. They have fantastic costumes. And they talked me into doing cosplay this year. I was going to go to Star Wars Celebration. My first convention that wasn't working. I was just going to go. I was going to go to that because it was in Anaheim this year. It was going to be. And I love Disneyland. So I was going to just, do a little time at the convention and then boom, over to the park. They said, well, you got to do a costume. You got to do a costume. I said, well, I really don't want to, but I'll give it a shot. I've never done it before. It could be fun, but I have conditions. One, it's Anaheim in the hottest part of the year for California. One of them, the late summer. I don't want to be in anything that is, encasing. So armor is right out, so no stormtroopers. Second thing is I don't want anything where I would be recognizable. So what was come up with is, and we'll see if this still comes with me doing this in 2 years in 2022 when it rolls around again. They were going to throw me into makeup and have me Darth Maul up the place. So they were just giddy over the possibility of doing the makeup, and I'm both excited and disappointed that I got to escape this. I would have loved to have seen how I turned out, but at the same time, as it's somebody with a little bit of social anxiety, the costuming thing doesn't feel as hiding as it could be. So I mean, it would have been a hoot, I'm sure. But mostly I was just anxious to get over to the parks because, man alive, it's been too long since I've been to the Haunted Mansion.
It's a blast. For me too. It's been like almost a decade now. So the beard though, that'd have to go, huh?
The beard would have to go, and I'd shave the head. Luckily, this all grows fast. This is a month of growth. I've been shaving my head when the hair cutting places were closed. So for between April and the beginning of August, I just had it shaved down to nothing because that was easier. And it's not fun having the wool cap on your head when it's 100 degrees out, So
you got a great head of hair, man.
Oh yeah, it's when you hear the people say, "Oh God, this is thick," I don't. Okay, if this might hurt a little bit. Every time I get a haircut, I hear some long variation of that. But
I'd love to have that problem. Man.
I don't know, man. The heat and the humidity will kill you. If I go down to the Southwest, I have to hope I don't die.
Oh, so your voice, as we've been talking, I actually noticed this right away. So your background in radio is so appropriate. I just totally have been catching this little conversation. So, are you even aware you talk with the radio voice when you're talking to folks?
Am I?
At least. Oh, absolutely. I think, well, in the beginning of the interview a little bit more, but like I totally was like, wow, this guy's like.
Okay. Well, that's embarrassing. I wasn't doing it on purpose.
Oh, it sounds great. I love it.
Well, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I maybe it's the headphones on the head, or just a buddy and I are doing a podcast now. Maybe that's where all the sense memory is coming back. I don't know, but it's it's now I'm going to be self-conscious about what am I doing it again? But,
it sounds cool.
Thank you. I miss working in radio a little bit, actually, but I mean, they don't need people anymore. So much is automated. A person can go in at the morning, they can record all of the breaks for the entire day, and go home within an hour. So I mean, it's kind of frustrating, but one more thing that technology has replaced.
Absolutely. So your podcast. Mm-hmm. Tell me about your podcast.
Friend of mine, Ethan Colchimero, he's an artist out of Chicago, and we were talking about noodling up a book, dissecting is the word I'm looking for, the Spider-Man movies. And he said, why don't we do it as a podcast? We're sitting around here, we don't have anything to do, we're stuck at home. So we started doing the Friendly Neighborhood Webhead podcast. The first 4 episodes were awful because they weren't edited. It was all raw audio. And then I found, Audacity. I'm like, oh my God, I know how to use all this stuff. This is great. And all of a sudden the episodes started sounding a lot better. I just have to go back and find the time to trim down the first few episodes. But what we do is we take a movie. We take Spider-Man. We cut it up into 4 parts. We discuss half an hour at a time, so we can get into the movie a little bit deeper without having to take too much time in a sitting, So, a movie takes about a month. We've been doing this since May. We're just recorded last night the first part of Amazing Spider-Man 2. So we've gone through all of the Raimi movies. We've gone through, we took a break and we did an episode on the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. We did the first Amazing Spider-Man, and now we're on Amazing Spider-Man 2, which I haven't watched it since it came out in theaters, and it is so Batman Forever with Jamie Foxx. It's basically playing the exact same part as Jim Carrey played in Batman Forever, and it's just hard to not notice. But we're having a blast doing it. We're talking about the movies, and then we take we segue into talking about the comics. So, what is your favorite Ditko villain, non-Ditko villain? We go back and forth on the position of Spider-Man being married or single, and just, goofy comic book nerd corner of the shop talk. And it's fun to do because, like I said, I don't get a chance to do that very often, and we've been having a blast. Are there a ton of listeners? No, but that's just because thanks to the pandemic, there's about 9,000 new podcasts debuting every week or so. Nobody can keep up. So it's basically fun for us. It's, something to do for a couple hours a week.
That sounds like a blast. I think you'll get a couple more viewers.
Oh, hopefully.
Listeners
Let's say, just skip past the first 4 episodes until I've had time to re-edit them.
We'll have to make sure we include all that information when we
yes, include that. Yes.
Yeah. Links and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm in a minority. I actually really loved Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, and
he was fine. No. It's the issues I was taking when I was watching the movies had nothing to do with Andrew Garfield. It was kind of other choices they made. The conspiracy theory stuff with his parents, I wasn't huge on that, and just the weird choices with Electro. I wasn't huge on that. I did enjoy Amazing Spider-Man a great deal. Amazing Spider-Man 2, I'm not entirely sure I enjoyed as much, but it's okay. It's all right, because it does have its fans. It would be a terrible movie to watch standalone. Just go to that and have not seen the first Amazing Spider-Man movie. Just going to this in the theater. I've never seen Spider-Man before. I wonder what this is. Oh God. She died. This is terrible. I never want to see Spider-Man again.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert for this several-year-old movie, remaking a 45, 50-year-old comic book story. No. So I mean, the podcast has been fun, and
Good.
It's something different because you want to do stuff that interests you and is fun as a hobby. When it becomes work, it becomes work. So writing and drawing, which is the things that I did for fun and relaxation when I was doing the radio or when I was doing other things, well, that's the job now. So I need to find other things that I can do. And I'm glad that podcasting has gotten to the point where it is literally so easy. Anybody can record, anybody can edit with some really nice, free, sophisticated tools. And then 5 minutes, it's on the web for anybody to listen to across a dozen different podcast distributors. I mean, you can get it on Spotify in 5 minutes, within 5 minutes of recording it. If you edited it, if you didn't need editing, I should say 5 minutes of recording, 5 minutes of editing, and it's on there. And I mean, that's fantastic. And comics too, and everything that you can possibly do is so much faster to get out to people these days. So I'm kind of, I mean, look at this. It's a convention over the internet, books and music and podcasts and movies and all this stuff can be done quickly and just gotten out to an audience. And it just amazes me because everything was so much harder 20 years ago. And I mean, I'm rambling, but it really does blow my mind.
Yeah, it's incredible. When I started SiouxperCon in 2000 and how long we were on 2015.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this would have been the 5th, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's the 5th. Yeah, I think about when it started. Just starting all the initial work. I didn't in a million years imagine we'd be doing a virtual con. That never once crossed my mind. I thought maybe we'd do interviews like this with a couple of guests that maybe they had something happen and they couldn't make it. But I never would have thought that this would be a thing that we were going to do. And I'm so glad that you've agreed to be here again and do this with us.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to, and I'm glad that it is something that is viable, because I mean, people need them. People need the conventions. They need, the little bit of familiarity and normalcy.
Definitely. And I hope, my hope is next year we can do this again, but in person.
That would be nice. Yeah.
Hopefully it's all blown over by then. We'll see how this all goes down.
Knock wood. Yeah.
But if not in 2 years from now, whatever it might be. Yeah.
Yeah. If not next year, yeah, for 2022 for sure. Yeah.
That'll be our year.
That'll be the year. 2022. Probably these 2 years, whatever.
I did want to ask you something though. As things have slowed down so much, do you think people are going to appreciate the work that you've done, the work that other creators have done, these movies that are going to be coming out? Do you think they're going to appreciate them more because we've had such a slowdown? It's been, I'm going to the comic book store once, twice a month, once a week, let's be honest. And, the shelves aren't full like they used to be, right? My assumption is that there's going to be a lot more of appreciation for things. Are you feeling the same way? Do you think people are going to forget about this stuff and go find new interests? What's your take on it? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I mean, I hope there's going to be more appreciation. That would be nice, just in a general sense. But I think that the longer this goes on, things like comics at the very least will benefit in some ways. Maybe not comic shops, and I hope I'm wrong about that, but that's one of those things. Comics are one of those things that can be done completely remotely. I mean, social distancing, you don't ever have to come in contact with anybody you're working with to get the story done and out there, and that's new content. You can't say that same thing about movies or TV. You can't say it about animation. So there's going to be more animated content, which takes longer, but novels, music to a degree, comics and animation, the longer this thing goes on, the more that people are going to have to turn to those things just for the entertainment that some of them might have taken for granted. So hopefully that'll shine a light and get some more people interested in something that they had never taken a glance at before. But I don't think necessarily people will walk away. At least I hope they won't. Because yeah, people are still going to be bored. So they're still going to need things to do, and hopefully they'll dig into a nice big stack of comics or books. I mean, I'm not going to complain. Something to read. We'll see. Knock wood.
For all the viewers right now, if you've not read anything by Erik at this point, absolutely go back and read everything he's ever written. It's all gold. If you're a fan of Back to the Future, Transformers, Ghostbusters, Ninja Turtles, all the crossovers that you could possibly want to see from your childhood, he's pretty much had his hands in. So go back. I'm going to go back and read all these back issues again here soon. Go buy some trades, yeah, and read up on it. It is fantastic. And I'm looking forward to anything else that you've got coming out, these new projects. If you ever need somebody just to kind of give you a second opinion on anything, just send it my way. I'll let you know.
Well, I mean, if it's a creator-owned thing, I may pick you up on that. Anything else, I don't want the ninjas to pop out of the woodwork.
Get you.
They're there,
So you're the man to ask before we go. Have you seen Elvis, and how has he been?
He's been great. He's been great. He's never sounded better.
I had to get my Ghostbusters quote in there.
Absolutely.
Before we part, do you have anything else you wanted to add at all?
Boy, gosh, no. I've covered everything about me, so I would just like to say that I hope everybody is staying as safe as possible. The doom scrolling has gotten me worried. So just stay safe and stay healthy, and that is just what I would like to get out to everybody. And we're going to get through this hopefully sooner than later, and hopefully with less problems than more. So just stay safe out there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
No, thank you. Appreciate you having me.